Welcome to the Real Estate Show with KCD. I'm your host, Kara Chapin Donofrio, your DC Metro Real Estate Guide and Advisor. And today I am really excited to share with you what are the commonly negotiated terms in a contract. So I love giving you really good information on what you need to know in real estate. And the goal here is to prepare you for putting together an offer. So a lot of the times when I'm working with buyer clients, when they think about putting together an offer for a seller, they think price, that's always the most important thing to the seller. And while that's definitely true, there are often other terms that are really important to the seller as well, and some of those may actually outweigh price. So we're going to talk through, again, the most commonly negotiated terms in an offer or in an offer or a contract. So number one, yes, price. Now, while I said it's not always the number one thing, it's definitely up there. So that is going to be something where your realtor is going to be working to provide you with comparables from the past 30, 60, 90 days, sometimes as long as 6 months, of things that have sold that are comparable to that home so that you can really decide what is a fair market value or fair offer price for the home that you're considering. Now, number two is earnest money or your EMD or good faith deposit. So earnest money deposit or good faith deposit. And this is where you as the buyer, once you ratify a contract, are going to be putting a certain amount of money. In our area, often it's 3 to 5% of the sales price, but that money is put into an escrow account and it's held there, and assuming you go to sale or go to the settlement and proceed with the contract, then that money is applied towards your down payment at settlement. And often to a seller, too low of an earnest money deposit may be a sign that you could be a flight risk if things get tricky. So that's another. So number two would be the EMD. Number three is settlement date. Now, in my opinion, what I typically find is that typically the most important thing to the seller can be a settlement date. Sometimes this does outweigh price, of course. So settlement date is, again, the date that you would take possession of the home. So this is typically anywhere from 30 to 45 days, but it can be quicker. And potentially, if you're able to close very quickly, and as quick as, let's just say 2 weeks, then maybe that's actually more important than getting the highest price on the home from the seller. So settlement date's definitely a big factor. Another factor are your inspection contingencies. So the typical contingencies, or the most common that I see, are a general home inspection and a radon inspection. A general home inspection can include lots of different inspections. It kind of somewhat depends on the area and jurisdiction that you're in. So I'd advise you to talk to your realtor about the types of inspections that are available to you for that particular property. You can do inspections on septic systems, well systems, water quality testing. There's lead testing, chimney inspections, mold inspections. So there's just lots of different inspections you can do, and it will often really be a result of the property itself and what's needed. So that's where you'll want to consult with your realtor. But typically that inspections are done about 5 to 7 days from the date that you ratify a contract. And so always most attractive to the seller are shorter contingency timeframes, because that means that they've got less risk or less time where they know that there are things still outstanding. So I also mentioned the radon inspection. Radon is a naturally occurring gas. It comes up through the ground. And really the only way, because it's odorless, colorless, the only way you know it's there is if you test for it. So it is common, at least in our area, to test for that. And typically, every home has some type of level of radon, the EPA has determined what's safe. And if it's above a certain level, often the seller will pay for a system to remediate that from the home. So that's just a very quick, I could do a whole topic on inspections, but that's a very quick overview of, again, inspections are typically part of the contract, and the quicker those timeframes are, the better from the seller perspective. Another contingency, and so the uh, fourth one here would be the appraisal contingency. So this is where a third party will come out and make sure that the price that you're paying for the home, that it's actually worth that price. So they will have a copy of the contract typically. So sometimes my clients will say, well, the appraisal came in at the contract price. That's kind of eerie, right? And the reason that often they come in at the contract price is because an appraiser actually does have the contract in hand. And again, what they're really trying to do is confirm value. Typically, if you are getting financing, the bank will often require an appraisal, uh, mainly because if you're only putting down, let's just say 10%, the bank is still, they're funding 90% of it. So as kind of co-investors in that sense, they again want to just make sure that what they're lending on the home is actually what it's worth. Another contingency that comes into play would be a financing contingency. And the financing contingency typically, in terms of a time frame, takes anywhere from I've seen it as quick as 10 days to 25 days. And a lot of that really depends how quick they're able to move, will depend on the lender, and often how much work you've done on the front end before actually going under contract. So for example, has the lender reviewed all of your bank documents? Have they reviewed your credit and all of those things, so that maybe it makes the process just a little bit easier. But again, that's just the bank making sure that yes, you still make how much money that you say you do, and you still have the income to support. We verified your employment. We can now officially loan you this money to purchase on the home. Now there are two other ones that they're not in every contract or not as common, but they still do come up quite frequently. And that is a post-settlement occupancy agreement. Sometimes this can be a deciding factor in a contract or and the decision of whether a seller works with your offer or another buyer's. But the post-settlement occupancy, in essence, allows a seller to stay in the home past settlement. So in essence, again, they've settled on the home. If you're the buyer, then you've actually purchased, and sometimes you'll negotiate with how much money the seller will give you back to stay there for a certain period of time. Sometimes this is helpful to a seller because if they're trying to coordinate two moves, it can be helpful to have a little extra time. And so again, this can sometimes be a good factor for getting your offer accepted, and maybe again where it doesn't always come down to price, sometimes it comes into these other things that are available that make the seller's life easier. And then the last one would be a home of sale contingency. So this is, let's say that you need to sell a home and you want the seller to accept your offer. Then this is where you would have a certain amount of time to actually sell your home and get your home under contract. So maybe in this case, you may pay a little above market value, or you'll pay a price that maybe is not the best deal, but it also enables you to get the home that you love because you have this contingency in place. So by all means, this is not everything that can go into a contract, but these are what I find to be some of the most commonly negotiated terms and contingencies that we do find in most of our contracts. So I hope this was really helpful for you. And I can certainly dive deeper into different topics and subjects on each of these contingencies. But again, hope this is helpful. And if I can be of help in any way, please feel free to reach out. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.